On to our meeting today. We of course have Padma Pellegrin, who works at Delic US Holdings. We have Kyle Farmer, who is at Honeywell International. And we have Kennedy Habits, who is at HLP Engineering. So thank you all for coming. Y'all's mics are working and we're all on. I will stop sharing this. If I can figure out how. Oh, there we go. Okay, awesome. So again, thank y'all for coming. And I'll propose, so basically what we're gonna do is I'm gonna ask y'all a question and y'all are gonna take turns just giving your answer to the question. Or if you have any like further feedback, that'd be cool too. So our first question tonight is gonna be, while you were at UL, were you in any organizations that you believe gave you useful skills for industry or prepared you for your position? And if so, what positions did you hold? And the floor is yours. Whoever wants to go first.
Are we gonna go in like a certain order or something?
Yeah, sure. We'll go you, then Kennedy, and then Kyle.
Okay. Good, that way I won't get confused. So like Brandon said, I'm Padma Pellegrin. This is Coco Bean. And so when I was at UL, I had a couple officer positions. When I started my sophomore year, I was the events coordinator for AICHE, the American Institute of Chemical Engineering. And then I was the president the following year, my junior year. And then after that, for my senior year, I was the president for the Louisiana Engineering Society at UL. So all of those were super, super exciting. I got to be involved in a lot of different events. I got to help plan things and meet a lot of people. And just the skills that I was able to gain from being in those positions, a lot of leadership skills and people skills and things like that. That's helped me not only throughout college, but also moving into industry. And yeah, does that answer your question? Okay.
Okay, so I guess that means it's my turn. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so like they said, I'm Kennedy and I work at HLP Engineering in Broussard, Louisiana, which is not too far from school. But anyways, so whenever I'm still in school, I graduated in May. And while in school, I was started off as the event coordinator for SWE. And I then transitioned to be the vice president like the following year, which is my junior year. And throughout college, I've been in Phi Mu sorority. And I find that my like sorority experience gave me really good interview skills, because through like sorority recruitment, it's a lot of like one-on-one conversations and like hitting you with those pressing questions. And I find that like in an interview setting, I'm a lot easier and like flexible to answer a hard, out way left field question. But being in SWE also helped me just like networking with other students and being able to get ahead by like getting somebody's old notes or something like that, and like taking a lot of pressure off of the schoolwork. And so I was able to work while I was in college. So yeah, that's about my answer.
Alrighty. Hey guys, I'm Kyle. I work at Honeywell in Kansas City, fairly far from UL now, but I was not in any, or I didn't hold any positions in any clubs while I was at UL. I was good friends with some people who did hold positions, like Matthew Crawford was president of LES, and then he was something else, maybe vice president the year after. I'm not sure. So I was fairly involved with a good bit of clubs like LES, the AICHE, the Chemical Engineering Society. Circle K I was involved in that whenever I was in school. I'm not sure if it's still there anymore, which is basically just a community service organization. So I was fairly involved, but I never got to put any positions down on my resume or anything like that. But I think all of those clubs, just being involved, not just paying your dues and going to the meetings, but actually being involved really helps. Really in every facet, getting to know your classmates, getting to develop some skills and some relationships with industry partners, really everything. So
thank y'all all for your answers. They were all really, I think, really awesome. Were there any specific UL classes that you think helped you in the positions you hold now with your company?
I guess it's my turn again. So as far as my job, classes that I have found really, really useful is So for chemical engineering, our senior design class, we had with Dr. Prindle, who is amazing, but also a little scary sometimes. And he knows everything under the sun. And I find myself referring to his notes all the time. So whatever you're taking for your senior year, like your design classes, make sure you keep all that stuff, because if not, you're going to be calling your other friends and asking them for it. And also we had to take a communications class. And while it's not engineering related, that was something that I found really helpful. Just it forced me to be able to learn how to process my thoughts, whether it's on the fly or if you have to give a prepared speech later on. And that helps with communication in general, whether it's just every day in the workplace or, if you have to talk to somebody important, you got to make a PowerPoint. So those are probably the two classes that I relied on the most outside of my real adult life.
So with what I do a lot of environmental work basically. So we get clients that come in and basically ask us, okay, here's what we want to do. What do we require to report to the state or federally or whatever. So I find the most helpful course was probably just ChemiCalc, where you're learning, how to do mass balances, all this kind of stuff, and figuring out what type of emissions you're getting, what you're pushing somewhere, stuff like that. I feel like that's a super essential course in the chemie curriculum. And also, even though we haven't started doing it yet, but process design, I know we're going to start looking at understanding P&IDs. And I read P&IDs all the time, because we have platforms that come offshore, and then they need permits for the equipment that they have, and you have to read a P&ID to figure out what exactly is there. So having that class, obviously we haven't gotten that far yet, but anyways, reading and I'm doing that now, so I'm having to get above the curve and whatnot. But that would for sure help, just because you're presented with those on a daily basis where I am, and just having that knowledge would be super helpful. So
for me, so my job title is chemical engineer, but I'm more aligned with a computational material scientist. So basically, I work at a manufacturing plant. So process engineer may come up to us and have a problem with whatever part they're dealing with, or whether it be a metal or a polymer or whatever, and they want to know more about that material. And so we would basically run these simulations and hopefully be able to give them more insightful answers to whatever they're experimenting with in their lab. So a lot of the chemical engineering courses don't directly apply, the year-long senior design project where you have to design some plan at Aspen really has absolutely no parallel to what I'm doing in terms of the actual work. But I mean, of course, working with the team, planning ahead, make sure you're doing your research and whatever, of course, that's gonna kind of translate over. But I think for me, it's kind of important from all of the electives. So since I'm working kind of more closely to a material scientist, all of those material electives that UL offers really benefits me. So of course, the materials engineering course that we're required to take has helped. Dr. Sheridan's polymers course has helped a whole bunch. And Dr. DePan's biomaterials course also helps. And I think that, I'm forgetting her name, but physical chemistry professor, she also teaches a materials course. And I can only imagine that that would help a lot. So I guess the takeaway from my perspective is maybe you won't go into a conventional chemical engineering role. So maybe go in the electives that you take, make sure they interest you, or at the very least pay attention, because they could serve to really be beneficial in your job experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know I'm taking a class that's not generally for engineers, it's for business majors, because it's something along the lines of what I want to do. So that's a really good point, that you should not only focus on engineering classes, but maybe try to focus on some other classes that relate to the type of engineering you want to do. So another question we have is, did y'all have any co-ops or internships during your time at UL? I know Kennedy's working right now, but if y'all did y'all find that kind of helped you progress or have a foot above your peers whenever you were applying to different positions in the industry?
So I did an internship for Westlake Chemical, not the one in Lake Charles, but I worked in Longview, Texas for the summer, actually. I at the time I totally forgot that I had applied for it all, and they called me in like December and they said, we want you to come work for us. I was like, yes, please. And then the experience in itself, it was, I mean, I was confused most of the time. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know what was going on. I was having a hard time, and I didn't really feel like I learned anything at the time. And then when I was put into my new job at Delic US, right now I'm working in Krotz Springs, I found myself referring to things that I had done on my internship, realizing it took me a little while to realize exactly how much I learned until I was back in the situation where I needed to refer to that knowledge. So it has helped me. I have used things every day and work that I learned at my internship. And also when it comes to applying for jobs and getting jobs and interviewing, it was super great for me to be able to have that experience to refer back to and say, hey, I have an engineering degree. And also I've kind of used it a little bit, you know. And so it was an excellent talking point for whether you're at a career fair or in an official interview. So it definitely, in my opinion, definitely did give me a big advantage versus not having an internship or not having that experience.
Yeah, and I know I'm next, but like I've been working where I work now since like October of 2019, I think it is. And this is supposed to be like my internship experience, and then it's slowly turning into like my full-time job post-graduation. And I guess my big takeaway was whenever you're like in college, they always tell you like, oh, like you're a chemical engineer and like you're gonna have to move away, work at a plant one day. So I was always like looking larger picture and like Westlake and like all these big plants far away from Lafayette. I'm from Lafayette and I just like never really wanted to move. So I was looking at all these places and like, you know, considering applying for these jobs. And whenever I got the job that I have now, it was kind of like an eye-opening experience where it's like, no, like there's other ways that you can use your degree besides like what you learn in like senior classes, you know. And like it's not always, oh, use Aspen every single day. It's, oh, you can take what you've learned, because I work with only chemical engineers, so like you can apply that degree towards environmental because of what you understand, and you have a better understanding of like the background information versus an environmental engineer who might not really understand the way the like process equipment works. You have that edge versus them.
So I did not have any internships or co-ops. So I was fairly dead set on going to grad school after I graduated undergrad. I know at least, yeah, I think the whole engineering department, they have a really good program for undergrads to get involved in research. I think a lot of my classmates did that, and I think they're continuing to do that as well. So I really enjoyed it, and I was pretty dead set on continuing to do so. So I didn't apply for any co-ops, any internships, really any jobs, but it wasn't until my senior year that I kind of thought it over, and I decided to try to get a job first and then go back to school. And so Ashley, if I'm sure many of you people are very familiar with her, she was really big in SWE. She convinced a lot of my class to get involved with SWE and try to go to the career fair. It was in Minnesota that year. So I did. I went with a few of my classmates, and that's how I got the job I'm at now as well. So that was pretty awesome. And I don't, yeah, I mean, I definitely couldn't have done that without, you know, her kind of encouraging all of us. A lot of my classmates have been on internships, been on co-ops, and so they kind of helped me with the whole interviewing process, because I was certainly not the best at that my first time going through that, but luckily I was able to kind of go through the iterations with them, practice with them.
Sweet. So I know, Kyle, you just said you went to the SWE career fair. Did you happen to, was there anything you had to do besides go up to the people and talk to get that interview process started?
Yeah, it seemed kind of, I guess we kind of developed sort of routine. It was kind of a foreign process to me, because again, I was fairly dead set on going to grad school. And so, and especially in this kind of career fair environment, especially something on the scale of SWE, because it really is massive. If I'm sure some of you people here have gone, but if you haven't, I mean, it's like a convention center just full of massive organizations, well, big and small. But I went with a few people, and we kind of just practice with each other. You know, we would ask each other questions and see how we would answer. There's a few companies that I was maybe particularly really interested in. And so maybe I'll do just a little bit of research and try to cater my elevator speech to them. You definitely can't do that with all of them because that would be a lot of time and devotion. But I mean, if you can, try to. But I would focus on maybe a few that you're really interested in. There's a lot of them there. Like I remember Nike was there, and of course, I would have loved to work for Nike, so maybe I spend a little bit more time there. But a lot of the first people we talk to are just kind of be screeners, and so I'm not really sure the criteria that they decide on how you can go to the next person in line to get an interview. But if you are able to get that interview, I would definitely recommend maybe hopping out of the career fair for a second, doing a little bit of research on the company, make sure whatever they're doing aligns with whatever you want to do, and try to cater a lot of your answers to them. I remember doing that with Honeywell, and then I also got a job interview there from Dow, and I really think it helped me just generally converse with the interviewer, have a more of a candid conversation or organic conversation. But it also just kind of helped me realize what I wanted to do. If I ended up getting a job there as well. But yeah, I mean, as far as the career fair, yeah, that's really all you got to do is kind of have a game plan. Definitely have a game plan. You won't be able to hit everyone, unfortunately, because the lines are really long and there's a lot of companies there. But I would say make sure you try to hit the places that you're interested in early, because there are long lines, and unfortunately, they can't give an interview spot to every candidate that they are interested in. There's a certain amount of time slots, and so maybe hit those key ones first would be my recommendation, and have a game plan.
Awesome. Padma and Kennedy, what resources did y'all use to go about getting your internship and your job?
So I guess I'll backtrack to SWE a little bit. Super great advice from Kyle on all of that. That's kind of similar to what I did when I was at SWE. When I got there, I looked at the floor plan. I figured out who I wanted to go talk to, and went over there first. And a really big thing about nailing or getting that first interview slot is just confidence, because even if you're not quite sure what you're talking about, if you act like you're confident, they're gonna think that you know what you're talking about. So if you go up there and you're confident and you present yourself in that sort of manner, chances are you will be able to get a first round interview. And at that point, that's when you go and you do your little bit of research and you prep a little bit. Actually, Brina, I have something I can send you. I have a list of interview questions that I like to go through myself whenever I do an interview. I ask myself, it's like 25 questions, and I make sure that I have good answers to them. And a good way to do that is they have the STAR interview format. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or not, but it goes situation, task, action, and then result. So that's I think Chevron uses that. And so that's the way that you go around answering your interview questions. You talk about the situation, what you were tasked with, how you handled it, and what the end result is. And another big thing about that is that you always want to end on a positive note. So even if you had a really terrible task and it went absolutely horribly, you want to say, I learned XYZ and I'm better because of it. So just being able to be positive with your answers, it creates a good environment, I guess, between you and your interview, where they feel like you're a go-getter and you want to learn from things, and no matter what's going on, you're going to stay positive. I feel like I got a little off track. Internships, yes. So I basically did a lot of interview prep for internships. I did research, and then also another good resource is Glassdoor. So if you know that you're going to interview with Westlake Chemical or whoever, you can go into Glassdoor and you can look up. They will have interview questions specifically from Westlake Chemical. So if you want to prepare yourself for something that they may ask you that other interviewers may not, that's a really good way to do that. And it's always a good idea to come prepared with your own questions as well. Like if you really care about community service, or you really care about other things that the company may be doing, it's a good idea to always have one or two questions that you want to ask them to let them know just how interested that you are in their company. But all in all, I use LinkedIn a lot. I use Glassdoor a lot. And if you get an internship, an interview, make sure you do your research.
So I didn't get my job through Sweet. I remember one day I was just, how like the college sends you like a ton of emails. And then one day I remember Missy Lane sent out an email and it was like, oh, this lady Jamie in Broussard is like looking for a part-time student worker, blah, blah, blah. And I remember like a week and a half went by and I saw the email and like I was in Dr. Sheridan's materials class and I was like, you know what, like I might just send my resume just to see like what happens. So I sent it and I think about a week and a half went by and I finally got an email, or no, I was walking to my car after class and then I got a phone call. They were like, hey, like, can we see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. like for a professional interview, blah, blah. So anyways, had to hurry up, prep for that. And I think my favorite interview question is not like how to handle the question that they ask you, but like ask them, what does a normal day for you look like? And like, I know for me, I wanted to work somewhere where like it's never the same, like something's different every single day. I didn't want it to like sit there and do the exact same thing and like no problem solving because like that's what keeps things interesting. And I asked that question and she was like, honestly, she's like, you never know what's gonna happen like every single day. Somebody might call and need this ASAP, somebody might call and need this 3 weeks from now and stuff like that. But I know that was like a really good question. And be patient also after your interview because I know for mine, it took her about like 2 weeks to get back with me after I like went to the interview and I sent a follow-up email and like that's kind of what triggered her to call me back because she's like, oh, like I was just about to call you. I wanted to offer you the position, whatnot, but send the follow-up email if you're ever worried. Don't sit there for like over a week and a half or something because odds are they might have already notified the person that got the job or it could just be you and they just needed, like a quick refresher, like, oh, you should probably call them. They're waiting on you. So that's my tidbit.
Thank y'all. Do y'all have any suggestions for students who are currently looking for jobs at the moment?
Is it my turn again? So I guess SWE was a little different this year because my highest above all recommendation would always be go to the SWE conference and also go to the UL career fair. But if that's not something that you're able to do, I would utilize job websites like LinkedIn and Glassdoor and anything you can find. There's also, I can't remember what it's called, but they have the UL website where they're specifically looking for students from UL to hire. Brandon, do you know what that's called? Do you remember?
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to pay for the extension.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
No. It's called Handshake.
Yes, Handshake.
Yes, Handshake.
So, and Handshakes are,
Nicole, you're muted.
you're right. So Handshake is a really, really great place to start because they definitely want to hire UL students. It's basically like the people that would be coming to the UL fair to hire us already. And then LinkedIn and Glassdoor always have a lot of options and a lot of them will have easy apply too. So you can just press a button and it'll upload your whole LinkedIn profile. If you don't have a LinkedIn already, you need to make a LinkedIn. And then just basically make sure that you're networking. If you're going to go somewhere where you're going to meet other professionals, get their information, add them on LinkedIn. If you have an interview, make sure that like Kenny said, follow up or add them on LinkedIn as well. So that at the very least, if you're not getting the job, you're able to grow your network. So I got a job right around when COVID hit and it was really hard because a lot of my peers were not able to get jobs, not because they weren't qualified. We had a lot of really great engineers that are still struggling to get jobs. And the reason for that was because of COVID. So the best advice that I can give you is start early, start as early as you can. As soon as you get into your senior year, just do 2 or 3 applications every day, stay on it. I made a little Excel file so I could keep track of it. So I knew how many that I did. You don't need to do that, but just start early, do a couple every day. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but it'll put you way ahead of everybody else if you stay on it and you're regular with it.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I was kind of like in a different position because I wasn't, constantly applying. Like this was the first position I applied for and I've magically got it, which like I'm super grateful for. But just like I guess my biggest piece of advice is like don't be so close-minded and think that like, oh, you have to search like only chemical engineering positions, because like mine is, I guess you could say environmental engineering, but at the same time I only work with chemical engineers. So like you're qualified enough to get a position where an environmental engineer would work. And there's even like positions within the state which has like really great benefits, and that's another, you know, alleyway somebody could go. But yeah, just don't think that there's only one type of job for chemical engineers, because there's so many different kinds. So
Yep, I think I would just reiterate what Kennedy just said, because again, I don't do traditional chemical engineering. I guess I'm more of a computational material scientist. So again, I mean, and just like Nicole said as well, make sure you network, whether that be, you know, if you have a speaker at a meeting, whether it be SWE or the Engineering Society or whatever, maybe try to go, you know, shake his hand or shake her hand, do, you know, say your name, add him on LinkedIn, something like that. Something that, you know, if you reach out to them again, maybe they'll remember you, or if you reach out to someone at their company, maybe they'll remember you. You never know. Maybe he or she is interested in what you do as well. So just kind of network with whoever you can, wherever you can, and just keep your mind open. Yeah, because maybe working at a refinery isn't for you, but maybe doing something else that you can apply everything you've learned to, everything you've learned from getting a engineering degree to something else, whether it be some business related role, whether it be even maybe some simulation related role that's working on some sort of engineering application, right? I think there's really engineers, everything. I think I watch a lot of soccer, and something that I found very interesting that I learned recently is that a lot of soccer teams hire physicists to perform data analytics for them, which I found very interesting. But again, it just goes to show you can really end up anywhere. You never know where people may find that your skills could be best utilized, and it may line up with something that you're really passionate about. So yeah, just be diligent and have an open mind.
So I actually have one more comment on that. Sorry to cut you off, Brianna.
No, go ahead.
Another service that UL offers that I found super helpful is they do mock interviews. They don't do a really great job of telling everybody that they do mock interviews, but if you want more information on that, LaShawn Bordelon in the engineering department, she's the one who sets that up. And so when I did mine, I actually ended up interviewing with somebody from Delic, and so he told me exactly how to get my job. So, but they do a really, really good job, and they're super honest, and they give you great feedback, not only on your responses, but also just on body language and other things like that. So if you're not super confident in your interviewing skills, I would definitely look into that.
Side note, Career Services is having a resume reviewing workshop tomorrow. So you can go to their website on the UL page and sign up for that if you want to get your resume looked at. But thank y'all for that. So considering everything that went on this past year, I know Kennedy, you said you've had your job since like 2019. But I know Nicole, you graduated during the COVID pandemic. Did y'all have any trouble kind of applying to places because of that?
So I actually got kind of lucky with that because, like I was talking about earlier, so I started pretty early, just because I was super nervous about having to find a job. And so I signed with Delic around January. So it was like right before everything was really bad with COVID. But what I saw is, so we had maybe about 4 or 5 students that signed before COVID, and between COVID happening and the end of the second semester, it was a very, very small amount of students that were able to find a job during that beginning phase of COVID. So now I have friends now that are they're getting it and it's going better for them. But it was definitely a challenge for a while for a lot of people. They had to apply a lot harder than they thought they were going to have to. And a lot of people had to be willing to move farther than they would have wanted to prior. So all in all, kind of a rough time, but I got really lucky with having figured that out early enough to avoid the trouble there.
Yeah, so I got my job October 2019, which is a few months before COVID hit. And I guess so I was lucky enough that my job title, I guess you could say, dealt with like federal and state regulations, which even though COVID like was happening, you still have to follow state and federal regulations. So like just because stuff might be shutting down, like you have to get permits to close down a well or like plug and abandon something. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And I was fortunate enough to keep my position, although I know there were tons of like the surveyors that we used to go like to the field to take like gas analysis for us, that they weren't so lucky. But at the same token, it's just, I guess, finding a position that that like you're super useful and a key component to the day-to-day operations for wherever you are, which like obviously I didn't think about that whenever I got this job, but and I was super flexible with my hours. Like I understood that even if work was slow, I was like, oh, I don't have to work a full 8-hour day, because like we still had that Christmas break. So I was like, I don't have to work a full 8 hours. I can do just like 4 hours today or something like that, which I just worked with my boss. And it was like, when we had work, I was there and I got my stuff done. And if we didn't, then I was free to go. But and now that work's picked up, everything's perfectly fine. But that stretch of time was pretty rough. But I was lucky, so that's me.
I got my job before the pandemic happened, but I guess I'll give a few notes kind of on the other side of things, because we've kind of been hiring a few people recently. So I guess from the hiring perspective, I think that we've gotten most of our applicants either from a job fair of some sort. So I'm not sure how that's going on. It may be different in different states. I'm not exactly sure. Or it came from a direct recommendation from somebody that we already work with. So I guess that kind of hits on both of the things we've mentioned probably many times during the course of the last 30 minutes, which is, talk with people, network, and also just, use whatever resources you can to get your resume out there.
All right. Well, since y'all have been in the field for like quite a long time, like a couple months now or a year, how would you kind of describe your experience with your company so far? Like, what do you like? What maybe don't you like? But, what's your experience?
So I don't know if I'd give myself a whole couple of months, because I've been back and forth working from home. Our COVID, we have a COVID protocol, and it's been going up and down based on the holidays and whatever else is going on. So I've been kind of in and out of the office. When I'm working from home, things are pretty slow. But when I'm in the office, like I really enjoy it. I got a little golf cart, so I can go out in the field whenever I want. There's a lot of probably like 40% of my day is meetings about things, and the other half is going out in the field and looking at different pieces of equipment and seeing what's going on. Right now, they have me on a new project. We bought a bunch of new machines, and for some reason, I don't know why, they put me in charge of making them work. So I've been out there pretty nonstop, dealing with a lot of third parties. It's exciting. I really enjoy having somebody actually want my opinion on how to run these machines and how to make process changes. It makes me a little nervous sometimes, because I'm not always super sure. Like I gotta make a lot of phone calls, get a lot of second opinions, since I'm still pretty new. But all in all, I really enjoy working for Delek, because they allow me to be really hands-on. And there's a lot of people that are very supportive and want to help me learn as much as I can and do my best. And also, with COVID and everything, so Delek's an oil company, and oil is having an absolutely terrible time. But when they hired us, they made it a really big point to let us know that they made a commitment to us and they were going to stand by that. And that was something that said a lot to me. So I really enjoy the company, because they do a lot to help grow their young engineers.
So I always love whenever somebody asks me this question, like, what do you love about working at HLP? Because my favorite part has to be, so I work in the air quality division. And within the air quality division, I work with about 6 different engineers, and 5 out of the 6 are females. So I feel like that's the super interesting part of my job. And they're all females, like underneath 45, like they're super young girls that I'm working with every single day. And I just found it super, because I don't know why, but you have this like thought like, oh, wherever you're gonna go, like you're gonna be the youngest of the group and you're probably gonna be working with a bunch of like the stereotypical like 50-year-old white men. But like here I am like only working with females, and like the PE we have on staff is a guy, but like he's super young too. And like I just love the work environment, is very accepting. And I find it's a little bit younger, and they're super, super like understanding of like my school situation. So like if I have a test that day or something, like I won't come in that morning and I'll do some work from home or something like that. And I really like how flexible they are, because and a lot of like my coworkers have like young kids. So like if something happens with them, you know, they're free to take off and like go handle or like work from home that day. So I guess the flexibility is one of my favorite parts too. But yeah, I think that's about everything.
Yeah, I think the flexibility for Honeywell is really awesome as well. We, even before the whole COVID thing happened, a good bit of the people I work with anyway, since we mainly do simulations, work from home is fairly easy and accessible. We had a few people already work from home permanently. So whenever we transitioned to most people working from home, it was fairly easy in our group, but even for the rest of the plant, I think it was okay. So work hasn't changed a whole lot. I do prefer being in the office, at least maybe a few days a week, because you get that social aspect that every human being needs naturally. But it's not too bad. As for the flexibility, Honeywell does the 980 thing. So you do like 5 days a week for 1 week and then 4 days the week the next week, but you do your whole 80 hours, but just in 9 days rather than 10. So basically you have a 3-day weekend every other week, which is pretty cool. As for the hours, we can basically get them kind of however we want. We have to be at work from 9 to 3, but then those other 3 hours or 2 hours in the day, we can get, you know, in the morning, if you're an early riser, or maybe late at night, if you like to get some work done before you go to bed, which is really nice. You know, you can kind of log on and without anyone bugging you if you really need to focus on something, or you just like to break up your day a little bit. So the flexibility is really nice. And I think a lot of companies are kind of adopting that policy as well, as becoming more flexible, especially with COVID happening. Maybe they're realizing that more people can work from home than they previously imagined and be just as productive. But yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the best part, is the flexibility. It is a little different adjusting from, I guess, a school schedule to an 8-hour day every day, what seems like for 365 days straight. The breaks from school were really nice, actually, because we get those 1 or 2 day holidays, but nothing like a week off or 2 weeks off. Oh, you have vacation, of course, but it's always a little different. So that was kind of a big adjustment. But yeah, other than that, I think everything kind of flowed in pretty naturally from school over to a job.
Awesome. Well, do y'all have any last minute advice before we see if anybody in the Zoom meeting may have some questions?
I actually have one. Do the place you work has the mentorship program, or like how do you start on your work? Like, is there someone leading you? Do you shadow on someone else for how long and whatnot?
So at my workplace at Delic, so the thing that I'm doing, it's a rotational program. So I'm going to be where I am for 1 year, and then I go somewhere else for a year, and then they give me a final location. But to start with, no matter where you are, they give you like a buddy who is usually a younger engineer. So my buddy's name is Bethany, and she's probably like 25, super cool. And then they give you a mentor as well, who's somebody in corporate who is like a subject matter expert in something. So my mentor's name is Carlos, and he is a HYSYS SME. So like HYSYS Aspen, he knows how to do, he can make a simulation for anything. And so if I need anything, anytime of the day, he's available. I can call him, I can ask him questions. And same thing with my buddy. And then, but I don't directly answer to either of them. So while I'm at Krotz Springs, I have a boss. I'm in like the tech services group. So there's a tech service boss. And then there is an engineer that I work underneath / with. And so once they move me to another site, I'll have another person who's a boss and somebody that I'm going to be working with. But regardless of where I am or what I'm doing, I have my buddy that I can call, and I also have my mentor that I can call at any point in time. And so we also they hired 8 of us on together. And so it's nice to have like a group. So if I have questions I don't want to ask my mentor, my buddy, I can ask my group of my peers and they can tell me, and we have regular meetings. So that was one thing I really, really liked about Dell, because there is a really large network of people that are available to me to answer any kind of questions that I might have. So it's been good, a lot of support.
And mine's not so much like a mentorship program, but like a lot of our work's project based. So whenever we have some type of project going on, usually my boss would just like sit down with me and like, slowly just kind of go through the process. And then after that, I'm pretty much on my own, but I'm free to ask questions like whenever I need, which I ask a lot of questions and I'm sure I bug them, but I mean, learning, you have to ask questions, but that's basically it for me.
It sounds like my experience is almost identical to Nicole's. Whenever you're hired in, you're given some mentor that's kind of supposed to walk you through the businessy side of things. And that person may also be a subject matter expert where they can answer the questions of the job that you'll actually be performing. And then you have a technical manager who you actually report to and is in charge of, making sure that you're doing your job. But usually you also kind of adopt another mentor, or you become adopted and become a mentee of a subject matter expert where you can rely on to help you do whatever you need to do, and talk to whenever you need to, have regular meetings and so on and so forth. Honeywell is really big about the mentorship thing, so they even kind of extend that for you to reach out to other leaders in the plant, whether that be on the kind of manager side of things, if you want to go that route, or if you want to stay on the technical side of things, and maybe from another department, some lead engineer that's been at the plant for however many years. They really, really encourage that and promote that from happening. So yeah, there's a lot of mentoring that goes on at Honeywell, and it's been really nice. Because yeah, I mean, especially for me, I didn't know anything that I was about to be getting involved with. So having a mentor and still having him being, in touch with them daily has been, very fruitful.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Well, first, thank you all of you coming to this meeting. I mean, yeah, it's kind of last week we just sent out a notice. So I'm just interested in, so does the referring help? For example, Kyle, if you're going to, Claire reach out to you, hey, I'm interested in Honeywell, can you refer me? Does that help?
Yeah, so referring does help for sure. It will put your name directly into a hiring manager's desk, or I guess in their email now. But yeah, so referrals definitely do help.
Okay.
I feel like just as a general thing, any situation in life is largely about who you know. So networking always makes a super big difference, specifically with getting a job. So if your parents know somebody, well, it definitely won't hurt to bug them, to have them ask around a little bit for you, because that can make a big difference, especially if when it's coming from somebody whose opinion is valued highly.
Mm-hmm.
And I work for a small company, so like referral, I guess, is a lot differently. It all just depends on if we have like a position even open. Because like whenever I got hired on, we also had another full-time UL student that was hired on, but she was soon let go. But like that position hasn't been filled just because of like the COVID situation, and like I've taken on basically her responsibility and I've turned into that full-time employee. But for smaller companies, I guess the referral process is a lot differently, just because if that position is not available, they can't just hire someone because you were referred, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so one more question. I think I also asked the same question last time when the co-op student come up. So what do you think about I think a certain company has a 9 for GPA. So what do you think about that?
So you're asking our opinion on what the
GPA? Yeah. So compared
to
yeah, what does that? How much weight that have on the job, everything? And
I think in general, if your GPA is above a 3.0, it's not a huge difference. Some companies, because I actually, when I was at UL, I was supposed to give a talk to the American Society for Quality on hiring. And the weirdest thing is if you have like a 4.0, a lot of employers don't like that just due to the fact that they have preconceived notions about students with 4.0s because they think of the really nerdy guy who's hard to work with. So I think like the ideal standard is somewhere between like 3.2 and 3.8, but there's no GPA that is going to stop you from getting a job. So if you have the knowledge, if you have the competence, if you put the effort in, the time and the effort for interviewing, for applying for jobs, as long as you're willing to put yourself out there and do what you need to do, it doesn't matter what your GPA is in that aspect. So you will have an advantage at a certain GPA just because people like numbers. But if you put the effort in, you can definitely put yourself out there and get it.
Yeah, but I guess going off of that too is like you'd hate to get a position where, you let your, I guess, interviewee or like employer think that like you're this, that, and a bag of chips, but you get there and like you just don't perform. And I've seen that personally, and it's, kind of heartbreaking for like the employer because like they put that trust in a person who may or may not have had the GPA. And because of that experience, they were hurt in the long run. So like they might not take that risk going forward. So I guess it all just depends on the way you present yourself, and don't like sell yourself beyond what you believe that you can do. So.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, since we've recently kind of reviewed a few resumes, if the resume is already in someone's hand and they are already offering you a phone interview, then it really doesn't matter. I guess getting to that point of getting selected for an interview, it's a metric, so people are going to weight it. Some people weight it more than others. I think the person I work for doesn't weight it too terribly high, because we've had the full range of GPAs from a C average all the way up to an A average. But for the C average person, maybe they have this other relevant job experience. So it all just kind of depends on the whole, the big picture. You may be lacking, just like everyone's going to be lacking in something, but is going to excel in something else. So it really just depends on everything that you have. But I wouldn't, obviously, do your studies, perform well at school, but don't stress over it too much.
Okay.
A lot of times the only place where that GPA, if it's going to matter, really matters is that first round of whatever the first round is, and past that point, especially when you are a new hire coming in, it's more on the side of do I want to work with this person every day? So that plus, do they have the knowledge to pull up what I need them to do? But if you can go in there and you can be yourself and and tell them, explain to them, show them that you can do what they need you to do, then it doesn't matter what the number is on the page.
Yeah, I think since we've recently done this, to add on to that, the person that kind of the my technical mentor side of things, which was heavily involved in hiring me, he must have not even looked at my GPA, because I had a fairly good GPA and he recently said, "Oh wow, you have this GPA, nice." So I mean, he didn't even seem to look at it. But yeah, I think like Nicole just said, that kind of first round, those screeners, that's a metric that they can obviously go off of, and so they may value it fairly highly. But
yeah, thank you. So I mean, last comment is like, if your company has some internship co-op experience, please email to me. I will then spread to the students. I think at this moment, a lot of them are still trying to find those kind of opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? We're all good? All right, do our speakers have any last minute advice they want to put out into the world before we say thank you and good night? Okay, we're good. Well, thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Kennedy. Thank you, Kyle, for taking the time out of your day to come talk to us. We really appreciate you taking your time and using it to help educate us for future things that you know, we may need one day. So if any of y'all need anything, once again, if any of y'all need anything, please contact us at swe.ulchapter@gmail.com. There's information on our website, and don't be afraid to contact any of our officers. There's that word. It's floating around in my brain. If you have any more questions, please let me know, and I would be happy to pass along your questions to any of our speakers. So thank you all, and have a great night.
I would just like to add real quickly, if I can, if anyone has any questions or like to, maybe talk to me one-on-one or personally, then, I can either send my email out to Professor Fay or one of the officers and they can distribute it appropriately. But yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Same from me as well. Either you can get my contact information from Brianna or you can add me on LinkedIn.
Yep.
You should all make LinkedIns.
Yeah, I can add that because Kyle, I think I met Kyle in probably Mr. Homer's office, but we never, officially spoke with each other because he wasn't in my class. But I was trying to find some speakers. Then I just go on LinkedIn, then search around, then Kyle jump up. This face looks familiar. And I just emailed, message him. He replied very quick. So I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yep, LinkedIn will certainly work as well.
Yeah, when you all three, candidates in town. So you guys, when you come back, just visit my office. I can take you out for lunch or something. It's on me. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
It's recorded, so you have this recording.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great night. And as Claire said, happy Lunar New Year to everyone that's celebrating. I had no idea that was going on, but thank you, Claire, for sharing. But yeah, have a great night. I'm going to officially end the meeting. But if y'all have any questions, email us and we will happily get y'all in contact with our speakers or anybody you need to get in contact with. Have a good night, everybody.